Hey, welcome back to another Tuesday edition of Money Truth Moments with our very own Money Truth expert, Judy Copenbarger. How are you, Judy?
Fantastic. I just got back from a beautiful trip and back home. It just feels so good. I love this time of year, back to school. Everybody's mowing the grasses, all the, you drive by the schools and that fresh
Yeah,
grass. Football season's about to start. I mean, everything is awesome. I'm feeling good. How are you doing, Carlos?
I'm doing great. You have this recharged energy, and I always look forward to that. And it's like amplified today even more, which is great.
Wonderful. Yeah, feel good. Feel good. It's good to go, and it's always good to come home.
All right, folks. So thank you for joining us today. Make sure that you are following Judy at judycopenbarger.today. And speaking of school, today we have another great show related to school. And what we're going to talk about today is the back to school without breaking the bank, right? This is really important for a lot of parents who, my understanding is that there's schools that are going to open up next week as well. Some already on the second week of school, which is crazy to me how summer flew by real quick. But enough chatter. Let me ask you right out of the gate a really very simple question is why does back to school season tend to be one of the most expensive times of the year for families?
Next to holidays, I think it is. It is. Birthdays, they're spread out through the year. Anniversaries and all those other things, hospitality gifts, they're spread out through the year. The holidays are impacted. Back to school is impacted, especially if you have litters like I do. We had 5 kids in school. Back to school is a big deal. So it was a lot of supplies, a lot of preparation, a lot of money to get everything going. But it's so exciting. I think for some people, you're just blindsided by, wow, new backpack, brand new lunchbox, all that stuff, new pencils, new everything. It's just a very exciting time of year. Easy to overspend, though. So
Yeah.
we want to talk about ways to maybe avoid that regret that happens when the credit card bills start coming in, right? Let's not have that happen this year.
Yeah, one of the things that I remember as a kid was the back to school was buying do you remember the old metal lunch boxes? Like it was like
Oh,
Batman
yeah.
or,
Yep.
and so you always look forward to the new year because you would thrash them throughout the year, right? So you dance, all that good stuff, right?
Yep.
So that was always just a great memory, just, getting back to school. Like you say, even right down to crayon boxes or pencils, it was like, hey man, I got some new stuff. The peachy folders, you remember those?
Oh,
Um,
yes. Yes, yes.
yeah, a lot of good, definitely good memories.
Yeah, you get out the
So,
color pencils and color the peachy.
or you
Absolutely.
flip it inside out, right? That's what I remember we used to
Yeah,
do. So you have a clean canvas and all that fun stuff.
that's right. That's right.
So let me ask you, what's the first step parents or students should take to prepare financially?
Well, obviously planning ahead. So if there's still little time in the district that you're in, that's great. If you're having that, uh-oh, here we are, and I'm not ready, and what are we going to do, and where are we going to get the money, and that kind of thing. Think about how you can avoid that feeling for next year. So planning ahead. We'll talk a little bit about some strategies there. But just think if you had started last year putting $50 or $100 a month away, depending on how many kids you have and what your expenses are, what would it be like now to just have that wad of cash, that money that was set aside, whether it was cash or in a special savings account, and you go shopping and you're using cash, not credit cards? I mean, how freeing would that be? So I say the first step is to plan ahead. If you have time, if you have a month to go, most districts are, as you mentioned, starting back, especially here on the coast. It's time. I mean, we're already there, so you might not have time to put that away. But if you do, what if a month from now you're buying supplies and you put $50 a week away for the next 4 weeks, right? Or however many paychecks you have, you're there. And maybe it's not 100% of what you need, but it's a good chunk toward it. And it just feels like, oh, I prepared. It's not such a big bite. So those are some things that you can do and just plan ahead. It surprises me how many people are shocked by the holidays, around Christmas time, around Thanksgiving time, New Year's, Hanukkah, whatever, all that stuff. People are shocked when it shows up. But on my calendar, it's pretty much the same time every year. And back to school happens pretty much the same time every year. Why is it a shock? And why are we not prepared for it? We know it's coming. So why not plan all throughout the year, a little bit, little bit at a time so you don't really feel it. And then when it's time, you're ready to go with cash to buy what you need. It seems so simple, doesn't it? Maybe not easy, but
Yeah.
very simple.
And simple is usually the hardest things we tend to deal with, right? So it's never as simple as it sounds, although it is, but it's just a mindset, right? We talked about mindset. It's just kind of changing that way we think of things too. Um,
Yeah.
would you, in your experience, how early should really people start planning the back to school spending?
Oh, a year ahead. Like right now, think about what it's going to feel like next July, next August, right? It happens every year, people.
It's true.
Why not prepare, plan ahead? If you don't have that long, you deal with the time frame that you do have. But there are creative ways to take the expenses down. We can talk a little bit about that too. Um,
Yeah, and you know what? That actually leads me to my next question. That what are some of the biggest money traps, right? That during back to school shopping you come across or you don't realize?
well, I think getting sucked into it. When our kids were little, we didn't really do trendy at our house. We didn't do the virtual pets. We didn't do the beanie babies. We didn't do all the trendy Pokemon necessarily. Maybe they had a couple little things, but we didn't like get into it. And there's always something to get into. The marketing is powerful. And so there's the same thing with back to school. You have to have a new this, you have to have a new that, you have to have a new everything. Not really. What if at the end of the school year you dump out all the kids, get in the middle of the floor, dump out everything that you're bringing home? They bring home the box and the bags of all this stuff, and you put aside and store the things that are still pretty good. Here's some pencils that are still pretty long. We don't need those, right? But we like these. And so the erasers that are still good, if there's still some, crayons that can give us a head start, if there's some folders that maybe weren't used or they were, we could take the papers out and they're still brand new, store those. And then that'll give us a little shopping head start when it's time to go get new stuff. And some of it might still be like new, right? And so things like that we can do to avoid the big shocker of we've got to go get everything, we've got to get new, we need to overbuy because we're excited, and the store is all packed, we better buy all that. So there are ways to not get sucked into it, but that's just like the discipline of any kind of shopping, whether you're shopping for clothes or golf clubs or whatever it is. You don't have to get sucked into it. Go with a plan, go with your list. Always start with needs, wants, and wishes. And I think it would be very helpful to have your kids do that. Make their list of needs, wants, and wishes. The needs you got to get, that's what the teacher says you have to have. The wants, it'd be really nice to have this or have this new. And then the wishes are like, if there's leftover or maybe something that we can do a little later, then you hit the wishes list.
It's funny you mentioned about pencils too, and I know you remember this, but I remember as a kid we always had this competition of who can take the pencil to the smallest level, right? And it sometimes like the tip was longer than the body, and it just became this thing where you can barely write holding this thing like this,
I
just
remember that. I remember that.
yeah, definitely bringing a lot of great memories.
Yeah.
Folks, if you're just joining us, welcome. Make sure you are following Judy at judycopenbarger.today. Make sure you watch previous episodes too during our summer series where we did talk about, how to not overspend on vacations and things like that. But getting back to school, today we are talking about back to school without breaking the bank. And make sure that you watch the beginning of the show because so far we've got some great content that Judy's been able to share with us as well too. So let's talk a little bit about how can families save money on, you touched on clothing, you touched on some of the hand-me-downs or things like that too. What are some best practices that we should be looking at that we don't really think about?
Well, when it comes to clothing, sometimes you have uniforms. So go to the families that have the bigger kids and buy the uniforms that are, maybe they bought them right, I think, because kids grow so fast. So they
Mhm.
bought them right in May, right before school was out. And it's like, shoot, now the kids grew a foot over summer. And the boys tend to do that like in junior high and they don't fit. So, but they might fit your kids. And so it's just good to build a little community of these things that you can share, and all those other things like the calculator you need in algebra, the compass that you need in geometry, things like that. Well, everybody doesn't have those lying around, so they're all going to buy new unless you share. But if it's a class you're only going to take once, the kids who had it last year have all those lying around. Hit those families up, work together and share in that community. And maybe you can buy bulk together too, online or at Amazon or wherever you go. But for clothing, particularly, that can be so costly and kids go through them. And it's not their fault. They're just growing, right? They're doing what they're supposed to do. So find some people, get together, make a community, barter, share, swap, do what you can do to avoid the high costs items, and then you can fill in with some of those wishes and wants with the fun stuff of the lower cost items.
I think another to add to what you just said that people tend to forget is the student discount, right?
Oh
You want to
yeah.
talk a little bit about that?
Oh yeah, for the laptops, the all the technology that you need, whether it's, I mean, they're even going to cell phone technology is what I hear, the iPads, whatever it is, tablets, student discounts will take you far. So sometimes you have to have an ID. Sometimes they just want to know what school you're at to verify that you are a student or your kids are students. And you can get 20, 30, 40, 50% off stuff from these
Yeah.
big companies that write off the difference. And take advantage of that. If you are maybe not so um, proficient on the computer at finding that kind of thing, talk to the school, talk to the school secretary. They know, talk to the resource department at the school that the kids are going to be attending and ask them what resources do they have. There might be grants where some company or some family has donated a bunch of that stuff to the school and they just say, hey, if there's a need, give it out or loan it out. See what resources are there. Talk to the principal's office, the resource department, the secretaries know. Find out what's available for free before you go shopping. You might not even need to shop for some of those larger items.
That's true, and that's great advice. And again, folks, if you have any additional questions you'd like to ask Judy, please make sure you put it on the chat, the comments, or send us a message. And I'm sure Judy would love to address this and give you some additional content and wisdom as well too. So let me push this forward a little bit and ask you, what's the best tip for building a back to school spending plan that actually works? Okay. And when I say that, I mean that, we always say in our head, we're going to do this time, or we don't stick to it, or something else comes up like, squirrel, they turn around, do something else or whatever. So that's why I'm asking that actually works on this.
Yeah. Well, everybody has a different psychology and a different way to be motivated. One simple way would be build a chart. We're going to put $50 a month into this special account. We're not going to rob it. We're going to leave it there for when school starts. We're going to do it for a year. Put a chart on the refrigerator, and every month check the box when you put 50, like a chore chart. Maybe it
Right.
needs to be that simple and that visual for you. It could be, hey, every time I get a paycheck, I'm going to put 20 bucks in or 50 bucks in, whatever it is. You figure about what you need for back to school, divide it by 12, right? 12 months or however long you have. So that would be a great way to plan ahead. Just whatever works for you. Maybe it's an app on your phone. Maybe it's a special separate account that you open at your credit union or your bank. And your goal, and you write down the goal. It's something about visually writing it down, having it in front of you, whether it's a chart or a picture or something on your phone, a note that you revisit, put it on your calendar. Every second of the month, have it pop up on your calendar. Put 50 bucks in the back to school account, right? And then you get
Yeah.
paid on the first, the second, the money's there and it goes in your account. So whatever system works for you, there's no perfect way to do it. There's no wrong way to do it. Just do what works for you and be consistent. That's going to be the key. And once you start the process of saving, don't rob it because you want to go take a trip or you're short on the bills one month. That money is considered already spent. That way it'll be there when you go to get it next fall and go back to school shopping.
That's great advice. Very smart too. And we've been talking about back to school. We've been talking about us as parents, the responsibilities of the different things. But how can parents involve the kids, right, in saving money for school supplies too?
Well, they can definitely help with that list. So they get the list from their teachers or their professors. And the list says, here's the stuff you have to have for this class. Here are the books, here are the equipment, here's the compass or the computer, whatever it is you're going to need. You've got to have those things. That's your needs. So you can't take the class successfully without these things. That's your needs. The wants are the tools that will help the child do really well and feel really good about sitting at their desk with new crayons, whatever it is. And then the wishes are the other things, the fancy peachy folders and the fancy notebooks that have all the cool stuff and the razors that have the animals, all that stuff. And so having the right order, involve your kids in those lists. Have them put needs, wants, and wishes and help them make sure everything's not a need. Right? Well, I need
Yeah,
that. I
exactly.
need that fluffy, ponytail, pen that writes in purple ink and turns into blue, I need that. Well, is it a need or is it a want or a wish, right? So help them with that list. Have them be engaged that way. If you have pretty savvy kids, fiscally, that aren't going to just put everything in the cart. Sometimes spouses do that. It's like some spouses are better left home when it's time to shop. if you're trying to spend less money. But some kids are that way too. But it's a great opportunity to involve your kids and have them help you build that needs, wants, wishes. Do we really need that? Is that really essential? Or is that something that would be really nice to have and let's go ahead and put it in the cart or maybe wait for next time? But that just helps them learn how to make financial choices. And this is just a lesson in all areas of life for young people. Most people, when I see them 30, 40, 50, 70, right? When I see them and I'm working with them on their spending plan, their financial planning, it's not that they couldn't save more, it's that the spending habits weren't there. They never learned how to spend properly and allocate the money that goes out properly. Money coming in, we know what we earn and what we need to get. But money going out, they didn't practice. So we can help our kids when they're young practice allocating how money goes out and whether it should go out at all. And back to school is a great opportunity because it's their stuff, right?
I want to briefly talk about the other piece that's also we don't think about, and that's how are there any creative lunch preps, right, or snack ideas that can help save money over the school year? Because that gets really expensive as well too.
Oh, kids eat and they're doing what they're supposed to do. They're growing, right? So, yeah, absolutely. Prepping, pick a time over the weekend, involve the kids. I think kids should be involved in the kitchen anyway. Avoid all the prepackaged stuff. You buy the little Fritos in the bag. That's a whole lot
Mhm.
more money than buying a big bag and bagging them yourself. You can put them in the baggies, right? Sometimes you can even use a baggie twice, right? If you have to.
Yeah.
So, do that. Have the kids help you bag up the Fritos for the week or 2 weeks at a time. And that will save you. It's about 50% savings just doing that for most items. If you're going to be doing prepackaged foods like that, but better, healthier, more cost effective is prep your own things. So pick a time, Saturday morning, Saturday evening, Sunday afternoon, whatever it is, where you plan, you shop, and you prep for the food. And this could be done for all the meals, but particularly kids' lunches and after school snacks. Do it ahead. If you're going to make nutritional cookies, do them big batches, freeze them, have them ready. So at least the whole week's worth is done. And that helps with the calendar. It helps with all of the energy, the extra energy that doesn't need to be there in the household. You know what I mean? The stress part, the anxiety part. Thinking ahead. Okay, what are we going to do Tuesday? Both kids have a game on Tuesday. What are we going to do about dinner that day? Well, what if you already have it prepped where it's ready to throw together or just heat up on that day, right?
Yeah.
So, and that helps with the budget because you're not driving through at the last minute, driving through getting a burger or a taco or something that's expensive and maybe not as healthy anyway. But involve the kids, have a time on the calendar during the weekend that is prep time. Maybe it's Friday night for you, whatever it is. But be consistent about the prepping, the shopping, and do all that together. That will save you so much money to just have it all homegrown, home prepped, home cooked.
Nice. All right, folks, we are at the tail end of our show, and for most of you guys, you know what that means. All right, this is a challenge I can't wait to hear from the back to school without breaking the bank.
Well, it's one
Well,
that's not
it's one
easy,
that's
but it's
not easy,
simple.
but it's
And we've
simple.
talked
And
about
we've
it.
talked.
Needs, wants, and wishes. Adults, you make a needs, wants, and wishes list. Categorize those things that you need for back to school, uniforms, sports things, what they need in the classroom, all of those office supplies, school supplies, all of that. And have the kids do the same thing. So if you've got kids or grandkids in your life, nieces, nephews, people that you're mentoring, young people, have them make that needs, wants, wishes list. This is good not just for fiscal stewardship for the rest of their life, but it will help for sure with the back to school planning. So you don't overspend and buy stuff you don't need. You can do it.
All right, folks, you heard the challenge. And again, if you have any questions, please let us know. If you have any themes that you'd like Judy to talk about as well too, that are kind of hanging over your head, please let us know as well too. And remember that we are here every Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. with the replays on Thursdays at 8 p.m. And if you're not following Judy, please do so at judycopenbarger.today. Judy, any last parting words?
Oh, make it a great week. Enjoy the season. Everything is new. It's so exciting. Enjoy.
All right, until next week, guys, stay safe and stay cool.